The Jedi Knights were a noble order of Force-sensitive protectors united by their ability to use the Force, who upheld peace and justice in the Galactic Republic for over 1,000 generations, carrying out what they sensed to be the will of the Force as its instruments. As keepers of the peace, the Jedi Order undertook diplomatic missions on the behalf of the Galactic Senate and pursued interplanetary criminals across the galaxy. Whereas the Sith, the historic enemies of the Jedi Order, harnessed the dark side of the Force for power. The Jedi followed the ways of the light side of the Force, the Jedi Code, along with a collection of other foundational texts, guided the Jedi way of life, governing the behavior of individual Jedi to the philosophy and training regimen of the Order as a whole. Though the Jedi worshipped no specific deity, the Chosen One played an important role in Jedi prophecy and mythology. The virtues of the Order included compassion, generosity, peaceful resolution, and spreading justice. Jedi needed to understand that they were like all people, imperfect, and needed to always learn to be better. The Jedi were instructed in the ways of the Order and the Force. As their knowledge grew, each member progressed through several different ranks. With the exception of Anakin Skywalker, prospective Jedi Order were identified a short time after birth by the quantity of midichlorians in their blood, a factor which indicated the level of a subject's Force sensitivity. Many of these children were listed within Jedi holocrons before being identified by the Order. Training began at the level of the Jedi Initiate. At some point in the training, younglings were expected to find their own kyber crystal, the heart of their lightsaber, a distinctive and elegant weapon of the Jedi, in order to pass an ancient rite of passage known as the Gathering. Younglings who succeeded in their trials graduated to the level of Padawan, the apprentice of a more experienced member of the Order. In accordance with the Jedi Code, a master could only instruct one Padawan at a time. The Padawan braid, a symbol that represents a Jedi's apprentice's status in the Order, was worn in the hair or head, depending on the Padawan species. The braid was removed when a Padawan ascended to the rank of Jedi Knight, or in the case of banishment from the Order's ranks. The Jedi trials were a series of tests that ultimately determined whether a Padawan was worthy of the rank of Jedi Knight. After becoming a fully fledged member of the Order, a Jedi could choose to adopt a Padawan of their own as a part of the Order's tradition in training their next generation of Jedi. Teaching the ways of the Force to the next generation of Jedi was considered one of the greatest honors in the Order. Its existence and traditions perpetuated through a cycle of training and education. The Eye of the Nihil, Mark Keon-Rowe, believed that being structured into an order gave Jedi an advantage. In addition to tapping into the Force, any Jedi could tap into the Order to find confidence and structure. Being part of a united group made it so individual Jedi were willing to make large-scale decisions, which they would believe would spread their light throughout the galaxy. In fact, the Jedi was not merely strong and bold because they could use the Force. Instead of being part of the overall Jedi Order, helped them grow to embody those traits. The most powerful and legendary Jedi held the rank of Jedi Master. Again, with the exception of Anakin Skywalker, the Jedi High Council, the highest governing body of the Jedi Order, consisted of masters throughout the history of the Order. Among the High Council, the title of Grand Master was conferred on the oldest and wisest member of their group, while the Jedi Council's leadership rested with the Master of the Jedi Order. The Jedi Order, in its capacity as a peacekeeping force for the Republic, vowed allegiance to the Galactic Senate and democracy. As an extension of the Republic's judiciary branch, the Order was under the legal jurisdiction of the Senate, and as leader of the Senate, the Supreme Chancellor had the privilege to make requests of the Order. However, this prerogative did not give the Chancellor direct authority over the Order, which was legally under senatorial oversight. According to Chief Palpatine, the office of the Chancellor would become a dictatorship if the Order was forced to comply with orders from the Republic head of state. The precursors of the Jedi were the Dai Bendu, but the Jedi Order itself was founded in the distant past on planet Acto to the Prime Jedi, around 25,025 BBY. At the dawn of the Order, the Jedi came to the possession of Ilum, an ancient planet encased in ice and littered with kyber crystals, the heart of the Jedi lightsaber. Considered the Jedi Order's most sacred world, its ancient temple would eventually host the Gathering, a tradition that would continue up until the fall of the Order. As the Jedi were spread through the galaxy, they acquired a vessel called the Crucible that would ferry students to to Ilum so that they could perform the gathering. It would become the base of the architect droid, Professor Hu Yang, for over 1,000 years as he instructed on lightsaber designs and kept records of every single Jedi weapon created. During this early period, the Order was also established itself on Ossus, Jeddah, Sangsire, and other worlds. Later, some Jedi scholars argued that a number of locations would be considered the birthplace of the Order. The scholars argued that Coruscant, Jeddah, and Ossus, as well as worlds shrouded in myth, such as Tython and Acto, could all be considered candidate worlds for the Order's birth and the location of the first Jedi Temple. The Jedi religion, as it was called by Luke Skywalker, was based around 8 sacred texts that describe tenets, history, and specific guidance to those studying the path of the Jedi. These texts included the Romagon and the Ainomika, separated into 2 volumes, Ainomicum and Ainomicum II. These books included a number of aspects of the Jedi religion that appeared to have little influence on later Jedi, such as reference to gods and the world between worlds. They also included more mundane information, such as lightsaber designs. The theology of the Jedi Order changed over time. Many Jedi, such as Master Odan omitted even the sacred texts. Much was added to the Jedi canon, giving rise to the belief that the Ainomicum II doubled in size during its complete compilation. The Sith and the Jedi were once considered brothers in the Force prior to the 100-year darkness from which the Sith Order was born. A rogue Jedi had come to believe that the true power of the Force lay not in contemplation and passivity, and instead sought abandon and strength through the dark side of the Force. The Jedi High Council at the time balked at this new direction, and the fallen Jedi was cast out of the Order's ranks. In spite of his banishment, the outcast gained followers to his new orders. The power-hungry Sith sought to control the galaxy and oppose the Jedi, against whom they waged a series of wars which brought destruction to many worlds, including the Sith homeworld of Moraband, where the Sith were eventually forced to abandon. On another occasion, the Jedi Order and the Sith fought a battle on the planet Takadona. These wars were also the construction of ancient superweapons powered by giant kyber crystals which possessed the powers to destroy entire planets. These weapons, along with crystals, were destroyed 1,000 years later, believed by many Jedi to be merely legends. After 5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, at Coruscant, wherein they built a temple that would pose as their main hub for thousands of generations. Underneath the structure lay buried an ancient Sith shrine, the inherent powers of which was believed in the contemporary Jedi to have been neutralized and successfully capped. In truth, that power had seeped upwards and outwards since its entombment, infiltrating the hallways and rooms above, and weakening the Jedi Order for millennia without their knowledge. It was during this time that the Jedi Order came to the service of what would be later called the Old Republic. Promising to uphold its ideals, the Jedi fought to maintain peace and freedom. And the Old Republic outlawed slavery. The Jedi set about to free those held, notably under the Zygerian slave empire. The Jedi declared war on Zygerians, whose economic success had resulted from enslaving beings from all corners of the galaxy for selling them at auctions. The Jedi Order managed to put an end to their practices, destroying their empire and exiling them to their homeworld, Zygeria. The Zygerians developed a fierce hatred for the Jedi as a result. At one point, a Jedi sect known as the Ordo Aspectu broke off from the Jedi Order, led by the enigmatic Rur and his second-in-command, Amon. They sought to achieve the secrets to immortality. Eventually, a conflict broke out between them and the Orthodox Jedi. The conflict ended with the signing of a peace treaty. The treaty allowed the Ordo Aspectu to continue the research, but under Jedi scrutiny. During his experimentation, Rur attempted to copy his intellect into his Citadel's computer core, only to accidentally transfer his very sentience as well. When the Jedi sought to investigate the computer closer, the computer activated the Citadel's security droids, killing all members of the Ordo Aspectu and Jedi alike, but not before it was deactivated by Rur and Amon before they died themselves, thus ending the Ordo Aspectu. Conflicts also arose between the Jedi and the inhabitants of the world of Mandalore, who had rapidly developed into a warlike culture in which strength was valued above all else. Their belief of continual warfare went contrary to the Jedi's mission of protecting the weak. They quickly mobilized to stop the destructive Mandalorians from expanding in the galaxy. The constant warfare was a strain, and as the Old Republic crumbled, the Mandalorian warriors sacked the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, an event during which pre-Vizsla's ancestors stole the Darksaber. Prior to 1032 BBY, the galaxy entered an era known as the Dark Age. During this time, the Jedi-Sith War occurred. Early on in the war, the Sith attacked and captured Coruscant and with it the Jedi Temple. Towards the end of the war, the Jedi reclaimed the Republic capital and their temple during the liberation of Coruscant. Even as the Old Republic collapsed, the Jedi emerged victorious from the wars with the Sith. And their constant thirst for power, the Sith had weakened themselves through infighting, which allowed the Jedi to defeat the weakened Sith. Unbeknownst to the Jedi at the time, Darth Vader remained the sole surviving Dark Lord of Sith. As a result of the infighting that weakened the Sith, Jedi Knights were able to defeat the Sith at the mid-rim planet Ruusan. This confrontation nearly destroyed the ancient Sith Order and forced the Sith to go into hiding. After this, Bane established the Rule of Two, declaring that the Sith thenceforth would consist of a Sith Master and a Sith Apprentice. Bane's Rule of Two was discovered by the Jedi, but according to the imprint of later Jedi Elzarman, the Jedi Order ended Bane's reign. His death falsely convinced his enemies that the Sith had truly died out. And that is the history of the Jedi Order. My next video will be about Keepers of the Peace and Knights of the High Republic. And the one after that will probably be about the Skywalker saga and the Jedi and Sith involved in that story. The information used in this video was directly from Wikipedia or StarWars.fandom.com. I got many pictures from there, and all the text I voiceovered was directly from the website. This video took me a very long time to make, so I would appreciate if you liked and subscribed.